So I've left training quite late in the day. Left it quite in the day because I had an duty last night, and so I kind of slept in and bummed around the house a little bit, wasted heaps of time. So it's 7 o'clock in the PM. I don't generally train this late ever. I prefer training earlier in the day so I can kind of unwind towards the end of the day. But nevertheless, I've already started squatting. I'm up to 120 kilos now for the next set. But what I've been thinking about today is that I feel like it's all about just reps. When it comes to training, I think it's just about heaps and heaps and heaps of reps. I almost want to say it's a race to an X number of reps in your training. I want to say stuff like, you know, if you get to a million repetitions, you're going to have the X results. Now, you guys know that I like high frequency training. You know, I like greasing the groove. I like squatting every day. So far, for the majority of the training program, 170 days almost, I have worked up to basically a heavy single, and I've treated that as the main focus of the session, each session. And kind of like the warm-up sets are just there as a necessary evil. And so I've kind of had the mindset that the only reps that you do count are the working sets, or like, you know, when you hit the training max, and then you back off for whatever rep scheme that you're doing for that day. I've been of the mindset that that's what counts. Now I feel like I want to change. I'm kind of having thoughts about that it's not just about 80% up weight. It's about any sort of weight. It's about just getting the damn reps in. As you guys know, the guys that have been following me recently, I've been doing heaps of reps, 20 rep sets with sort of lightweight all the way up to 100 kilos or 60 kilos, and then, you know, wean down the rep count for the following sets after that. But I've kind of been putting in a lot of rep work, and I've been feeling great. My legs feel fantastic. I feel looser. I feel stronger. Yesterday I hit a front squat PR of 160 kilos. So things are looking up for me. They're really good. I still have, you know, I still touch heavy weight, kind of like that I've been doing for the last 5 months. But I also do low weight, high rep stuff as part of the warm-up sets. So yeah, and for the same type of philosophy I'm doing for the push-ups, just getting heaps and freaking heaps of reps in. I feel like that's what's giving me results right now. I feel better. I feel like I'm getting stronger. So yeah, I feel like I'm onto something here. I've recently watched a fella on YouTube. I forget his name. You know, I was just kind of like in the rabbit hole of YouTube, and he's a fella that was kind of an ex-convict. I guess you can call him. He spent some time in prisons, and he said, you know, in prison people train real hard, and the only thing they count is reps. How many reps can you get per day? And he said that's what drives progression. That's what gets guys stronger. You know, in the event like he experienced where you don't have equipment, you just have body weight. All you have to count is repetitions. And as you guys probably can already appreciate, some of those guys are super jacked, super strong. They can pump out 100 push-ups like it's nobody's business. So I've kind of adopted a bit of that mindset. I want to experiment with that mindset just for the next little bit and see how that goes. So yeah, that's where my mind is right now. That's what I'm thinking right now. So let me hit this next set, 120. I'm going to do this for one, and then I'll kind of go towards, I guess, 150, 140, depends how I feel today. Let me hit this. Alright, so that was 120 times 1. I mean, you guys probably already know that blood is the life force of our body. You know, blood is what gives us nutrients, gets rid of waste products away. So it only makes sense that if you are doing heaps of reps, there's heaps of traffic through those joints, through those muscles for rebuilding, repairing, all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's why I feel a lot better when I do high repetition stuff. However, when it comes to the tendons and the ligaments of the body, they tend to get stronger with heavier loads. So it's kind of like a balancing act. You still need to address tendon strength and ligament strength, with heavier stuff, but the muscles do need perfusion with heaps of blood and heaps of nutrients and whatever. So, experimentation is the key. You keep bouncing ideas around until you find something that works for you. So far, this has kind of been a refreshing change to my training, although it's kind of uncomfortable doing high rep work. I'm kind of used to just doing 1 or 2 reps and leaving it at that and then going heavier. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting stronger. I feel my quads are getting stronger. They're getting certainly bigger. So yeah, that's what it is. And so I'm also doing push-ups today. I've done 5 or 6 sets already. I'll do bench press after this. And so that's another little thing where I'm kind of going high rep as well as high weight. So for both the squat and the push-up, I've kind of had the same approach as of right now. All right, 140. All right, 140 is, I think, the limit for today. I'll leave it at that. Let me hit my bench press. So I'll see you guys in a second. Let me just set it up. By the way, if you guys are wondering why I'm dressed like I'm in the South Pole, it's because today has been quite cold. I think top of 19 degrees, which some part of the world that's summer. But yeah, right now it's around 9 degrees, so it's fairly chilly. I don't like being cold at all when I train, especially between sets. One of my pet hates in the gyms was, in between sets, like they've got those freaking massive fans on, they're blowing all this wind around. If you're wearing shorts or t-shirts, your joints just freeze over right away. So I know some of you guys wear elbow sleeves, knee sleeves to keep your joints warm. I just wear pants. And I feel like, especially with the pants with that little, I don't know what to call it, the little compression rubbers at the bottom, I don't know what to call them, keep the heat in the leg all the way in the pants. So yeah, I just like to stay warm all the time, especially when it's cold. I try to keep the body temperature quite high when I'm training. Even on days when it's not too cold, I still like to wear some sort of longer sleeve pants kind of setup, just because I don't want my joints to ever feel cold, especially when I'm, recent times I've been doing very little warm-up sets, so I kind of walk in and then just start squatting, fairly heavy weight. So the last thing you want is a cold knee joint going into full flexion. It's not a good idea. Even the muscles are, are warm. You still want those joints nice and warm. Anyway, I've already started warming up a little bit. So this is 100 kilos. I'll get this for a couple of reps. My shoulder is feeling a little bit weird because of the front rack position in the front squat. I've said this in the past. Every time I have, a niggling shoulder problem, I always go back to pull-ups. Pull-ups of me have been basically the Bible, the Quran, whatever holy text that you have and you follow. That's been my pull-ups. Pull-ups always resolve all my shoulder issues. Whenever I get into like a high pressing phase, like I am right now with all the push-ups and the bench press, just go back to pull-ups and just restore that joint stability. I have a feeling that we are made genetically, evolutionarily speaking, to pull more than push. The reason why I say that is, if you look at primates, if you look at, our cousins, monkeys, whatever, they're always hanging. I think we're supposed to be more of a hanging setup rather than a pushing setup. So, yeah, I think human grip strength is quite remarkably strong, and I think that's because of evolution. Grip strength is disproportionately strong for the human body, in my opinion. Anyway, let me hit this 100 kilos for a few reps and see how it feels. remarkable when you're doing something every day, how quickly you get accustomed to filling out what you're good for that day. So already, doing this 100 kilos for 5 reps, I feel like where my ceiling is for today. And I think that's the benefit of training every day. You kind of know always what to expect. This is why I always say that programming, rigid programming, block periodization is anti-intuitive to me, because the number might say I need to hit 5 sets of 5, but what if on that day I'm feeling shit? What happens to that? Does that throw out all of my programming out? That's my fundamental problem with rigid programming. It doesn't allow the human experience. We're not machines, so we can't just treat the body as a step-by-step progression. There are going to be fluctuations, hormonal fluctuations, which we don't even know about, that dictate certain things. So I'm a shift worker. So just by saying that, you guys understand that my life is constantly in flux. My wake-sleep cycle is always weird. So how do I align a program to that? I'm always going to have to do something with auto-regulation, something with high frequency where I can kind of feel and palpate my way through things. So if you have a similar lifestyle where you have to train when you can, I think you're better off doing a program like this, because it allows you to have less anxiety about your training, because it's okay if you have a shit day. It's okay if today I hit 120 as the top set. It is what it is. I know that my lead up to this workout hasn't been great. I've done a 12-hour night shift. I've had very little intake of food. And what's the quality of that sleep that I've had middle of the day? Probably pretty crappy. So do I expect my body to perform at my peak? Absolutely not. However, you still get in here, you still do what you can. Because it's all about percentage of effort for me. I've said this in the past as well. It's all about how fast the bar moves. If you are slow as anything, it's a good sign to stop where you are and not progress further in terms of weight. It's all about progression of speed of the bar. When you get to a certain speed, that's when you stop. I commented on a guy's video yesterday. I haven't seen this all that much on the web, but basically he had some sort of a piece of equipment where it allowed him to measure the acceleration of the bar, and he actually put that on the screen for each of his sets. It was really interesting to see how the bar slows down, as the percentages of his 1 rep max kind of continued to increase throughout the sets. And so he's kind of experimenting with it. I thought it was a great idea for a sort of quantitative approach to training, where you can kind of measure things. It's not by feel, like the RP is kind of like, I felt I could do 2 more. It's more subjective. Whereas when you have a number, you know exactly what the bar's doing. There's a number to it. And you can measure that, and you can plan that, and you can review that. So I think that's really clever. Let me put on 120. All right, let me hit this for 1 rep. I felt pretty confident with that. I feel strong under this one. So I'm happy to jump to 130 now and see how that pans out. Let me just put on that weight. So going back to what I was talking to you guys about before, in terms of getting repetitions in, throughout the last, what did I say, 170 days, I've experimented with certain back down sets when I hit the training max with the squat. So I'll hit 80% for a couple of threes, I'll hit 70%, blah, blah, blah. Throughout these last 5 months or so, I've kind of played with what works best in terms of backup sets, or what percentage makes the best volume for training. I know Pavel Tatulin says that he's looked at studies of the best weightlifting programs, and he says that usually rounds around the bulk of the percentage they use is around 70%. So he says that's where the bulk of the training volume is. I'm just wondering to myself now, I mean, these are very advanced athletes, and so as good as that is to hear, you need to also understand that these guys are very advanced. They have a very old training age, I guess you want to say. They've been training since they were like very, very young, whereas I picked up this stuff basically seriously at 25. I'm 31 now, so I'm never going to be able to catch up to those guys, theoretically speaking. So it's great to hear that 70%. I've tried that; it doesn't really work that well for me. So I wonder, what I want to think about now is the younger your training age. Does that mean the lower the percentage of your working weight should be? Obviously, with my push-ups, I'm doing 70%. With the squats, especially the warm-ups, I'm doing a whole lot of volume, kind of like sub 50% really. And I'm just getting in that volume, getting in those repetitions, getting in that just pure reps. And I feel great. And so, subjectively speaking, anecdotally speaking, do I ignore that feeling? I feel like that feels great. And so I want to continue doing that. And I feel stronger under the bar. You know, I hit 160 the other day. That's encouraging. So we're all different. We all have different muscle fiber types. Some people have more, fast twitch fibers in the legs. Some people have low twitch fibers, and that distribution of fast twitch versus low twitch fibers has a different effect on what type of training you should have, or you should do. So, I don't have a scientific team right next to me to work out what type of fiber I have in my freaking quads to make sure I work that particular fiber out. Because hitting a slow twitch fiber with really heavy weight and low reps is not going to get it. You need sort of more endurance type of repetition schemes to hit that type of muscle fiber. So that's my understanding of it anyway. But you as the trainee, you need to just kind of feel out what works for you and go from there. All right, let me hit this for one rep, 130. So that was 130. Let's go 135. I'm pretty happy how that moved. Hopefully I'll install next set. So after this session, this might be my last set for the day, but after this session I'm gonna, wind down a little bit, maybe do 1 or 2 sets more of the push-ups of the 30 reps. And then have some food and go to bed. And we'll see how I go tomorrow. Obviously, if I do a morning session tomorrow, it's going to be a very, very close turnover in terms of recovery. So I need to take that into consideration as well. And that's the other thing, like I'm usually training on an empty stomach. If I train tomorrow around midday or even the PM, kind of like what I've done today, I've got food in my belly, I feel sluggish, I feel tired, like it's not what I'm used to. So there's also that component to it. I don't know, do you guys train on a full stomach? Do you guys train on food that you've eaten like 2 or 3 hours ago? I feel the fresh is the best when I have an empty stomach, and I know intermittent fasting kind of philosophy rubs off on me quite well for health reasons. It's good to be in a bit of a fast, so it's all over the place. Shift work is, if you can avoid shift work, you should. But if you're stuck, you have to make do and work out how you want to play it. But it's not optimal for training. Training should be all regimented, scheduled. You should have plenty of rest. So it is what it is. All right, I haven't rested too much, but sounds good. All right, let me hit this for 1. Bit of a slowdown there, but we got it up, so that was 135. And I'm quite happy to say that this is going to be the last rep for the day. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers, guys.